Not since the day of the Hamas attacks 2.5 weeks ago has the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoken publicly of his plans for his country's response, only that he wants to wipe out Hamas. In a television address this evening, though, Mr. Netanyahu insisted Israel is preparing a ground invasion. The decision to launch it will be decided by his war cabinet, he said, but he gave no clue about timing. He said his forces had already killed thousands of terrorists. This is just the beginning, he warned. Today, the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza said nearly 3/4 of those killed were women, children and the elderly.
Israeli army commanders have been saying for a week that their troops are ready to go. And tonight, this country's Prime Minister announced that he has now decided exactly when they'll invade the Gaza Strip.
We have already eliminated thousands of terrorists. This is only the beginning. At the same time, we are preparing for a ground operation. I will not specify when, how, or how much.
In the meantime, the air raids continue, but the bombs dropped by Israeli warplanes aren't all that's casting a grim shadow over Gaza. There is a more insidious threat to life. Officials from various aid agencies are warning that Gazans are running out of the necessities for survival. The most important United Nations agency there provides food and shelter for more than 600,000 displaced people. But it says that without additional fuel supplies, it won't be operating tomorrow. The diesel is needed to pump and desalinate water, to heat the ovens that bake bread, and to keep hard-pressed hospitals still functioning. The airstrikes, of course, are a more direct threat. And today, a 13-year-old Gazan girl went public with her video diary of life under bombardment.
My bed. My sister's bed. This is no house. This is no house anymore. It is cut in half. My parents' house. My parents' room. My brother's toys. The turtle. My stuffed turtle. The glass. Look, it's broken. All of it. Broken.
This isn't Nadine's first experience of such things. We interviewed her in Gaza following airstrikes there in early 2021.
I don't know what to do. I'm just 10. I'm just 10.
And today, she's just 13.
It's still terrifying to think that history repeats itself. We need to change history.
The Israelis have been urging people in northern Gaza to head south for their own safety. And while several 100,000 have done so, Israel accuses Hamas of preventing some from relocating to use them as human shields. Today, the Israeli Defense Force gave ITV News what they told us is a recording of a phone conversation between an intelligence officer and a civilian in northern Gaza.
احكي مع ضابط من الاندفاع الاسرائيلي انا عشان املك وسلامتك بدي تنزل ضروري لاتجاه خان يونس.
نسكر كل الطرق. طيب
مين سكر الطريق؟ حماس؟
ايوه بوجه الناس مش حد يطلع مع الناس بيطلعوا بوجهوهم. يعني كيف بتلاقي ناس
العملية العسكرية في قطاع غزة.
The death toll and the number of people injured in the ongoing airstrikes indicate there are still plenty of civilians in northern Gaza, either unable or unwilling to leave. John Irvine, News at 10, Southern Israel.
Well, whilst the Israeli War Cabinet decides on the threatened land invasion, Israeli missile strikes in Gaza were again heavy today. And Raghi is here to give us his analysis. Raghi.
Well, as you're saying, the ground invasion is being talked about, but the airstrikes have been continuing without let-up. The daily bombardment continues, and overnight Israel Defense Forces released this video of targets being hit in the Gaza Strip. Now, as you can see from the figures reported by the Hamas-controlled health ministry, which cannot be verified independently, they claim that hundreds of people are dying in the strikes day by day. Again, according to these Hamas-controlled figures, things are worsening, with claims that more than 700 per day have been killed since Monday, and over half of those were children. Now, the red areas on this map indicate just how many places have been hit. And as you can see, it's not just in the north. The strikes have hit the south too, where people were told to evacuate to by Israel. Now, these satellite images illustrate the before and after of the strikes. The Islamic University in downtown Gaza was hit heavily by Israeli defense forces. The Israelis said it had links to Hamas rocket operations. But in a densely populated area like this, other buildings nearby were destroyed. For example, this site near the beach, which was a children's fairground. And just a few miles south of Gaza City, this group of residential buildings, the Al-Zahra Towers, were hit over multiple days last week. It's believed these flats were home to several thousand people. Now, if we look at the aftermath of that area, well, you can see there really isn't much left. Now, the town of Khan Yunis has seen its population swell in recent days, but strikes are causing damage here to homes and businesses have been hit. And the area includes the Palestinian Red Crescent offices and also a mosque, Tom.
OK, Reggie, thank you very much indeed. Now, among the many factors preying on the mind of Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as he decides on that ground invasion is a combined retaliation from Israel's enemies. Today, senior figures in Hamas, Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad gave a reminder of how close they are. They put out a photo of their meeting today in Beirut, and Emma joins us from Beirut now. I mean, Emma, I guess it's not unusual. It's certainly not unusual for them to meet. But it seems quite clear they were sending out a message by posting that photo today.
Yes, definitely sending a message that they are working together, they are working on a response, they're trying to formulate their battle plans. And for the last few weeks, we've heard an awful lot about the potential for escalation, Israel's choice whether or not to go into Gaza, America's attempts to try and put its own protection systems in place here. But that photograph and that meeting very much sent a message that actually, when it comes to escalation, that is not just a decision that can be made by Israel. The axes of resistance, as those groups are known, can also make that decision. And we've seen in the last few days the uptick in attacks on American bases in this region. A reminder once again that America has assets here and has forces, and they are vulnerable. And I think that's why we've seen this delay whilst they're trying to get the American defense systems into proper order. And tonight, a reminder also of the dangers of this situation spreading further and escalating. This evening, the Israeli Defense Forces confirmed that they had intercepted a surface-to-air missile that had been fired from Lebanon. Now, that's not the kind of usual weaponry that we see being fired across the border. It is much more significant, and it is a much more significant form of attack and defense.
Okay, Emma, thank you very much indeed.